Okay. Sorry about the camera work, but I wanted this to be not a backwards picture. So anyway, what I'm going to show you here, hopefully I'll get it all in frame, is a couple of little books that I've got that you can get. keepandbear.com. Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, all in one convenient little book, and even a book separate for the Bill of Rights. I'm going to read you the introduction to this book. If I could stop blinding myself here. All right. The Bill of Rights is a collective name. I'm seeing spots. The Bill of Rights is a collective name for the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. While the Constitution provides guidance and regulation to matters relating to government and legislation, it does not address certain more personal matters. The Bill of Rights takes up questions left behind by the Constitution and acknowledges in some detail rights and freedoms that every American citizen enjoys. In the 1780s, the proposed Constitution was the subject of dramatic debate. Many prominent Americans found it sorely needed. Others felt it took the nation too far in the wrong direction. The Federalists held that the Constitution was needed to strengthen the federal government, arguing hotly with the Anti-Federalists, who felt that a stronger federal government was not a good idea and would, in fact, be a threat to the American citizenry, which had just fought so hard for freedom from England. The Anti-Federalists' position was that the original Articles of Confederation, as drafted and signed in 1781, were sufficient, a notion the Federalists dismissed on the basis of their failure to serve the country effectively during the Revolutionary War. Under a pseudonym, 3 American statesmen, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, published letters in New York City newspapers explaining precisely why the Constitution should be ratified and what it should offer the American citizen. The letters were published in book form in 1788 under the title The Federalist. Responses, written anonymously by noted figures, including Patrick Henry and Robert Yates, and published under a number of pseudonyms, were also printed in New York City newspapers. These became known as the Anti-Federalist Papers and were collected into book form as the Anti-Federalist Papers. The United States Constitution was ratified in March of 1789, and in June of that year, James Madison presented to his peers in Congress his suggested Bill of Rights, a document created to lend support to and elaborate upon the Constitution. He took inspiration from many sources, including the English Magna Carta from 1215 and Bill of Rights from 1689, the Virginia Declaration of Rights 1776, and writings from the European Age of Enlightenment, notably the works of John Locke. He offered his ideas deliberately, explaining that those who opposed the Constitution did so because they feared that the Constitution, as in giving government certain strengths, would remove rights and strengths of American citizens, and that while sacrificing some rights and freedoms would create a much stronger nation in political and military terms, a series of compromises and securities would be built into the Bill of Rights so that both sides of the argument would be satisfied. Members of Congress joined Madison in reworking his Bill of Rights, modifying some of Madison's proposals and adding and subtracting others. The Bill of Rights, as originally passed by Congress in September 1791 and ratified in December 1791, was designed originally to apply exclusively to federal government, but eventually it would apply to state and local government as well. Okay, so that tells you a lot without even telling you anything about the Constitution. I'm just going to keep going here, and I'll stop at an appropriate spot. The Preamble to the Bill of Rights, Congress of the United States, begun and held at the City of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of a number of the states having, at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. Articles in addition to an amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of the several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. Okay. There's a lot of pages in here, so I'm just going to do several videos on this, and I'll read 2 or 3 of the amendments in each video. The conventions of a number of the states having, at the time of adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will be best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the Constitution. Namely, Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and read all the amendments, and then we'll read the rest of the book at a later date. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia, being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I don't know about you, it's pretty clear. In other words, every single gun law on the books is an infringement. Amendment 3. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. That's not one we got to worry about much, but it was important enough to be number 3 on this list. The right of the people to be secure in their person, this is the 4th Amendment, by the way, I'm sorry. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Red flag law much? Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. 10th Amendment's pretty powerful, and people don't refer to it much. The 10th Amendment is basically saying that anything not covered by the Constitution shall be up to the states and municipalities to deal with. But we see the federal government overstepping all the time. It gets worse and worse and worse constantly. Now, that's all 10 amendments, right, for the Bill of Rights. Obviously, there's many more amendments in the Constitution, and we will talk about those. But this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm sorry, it's kind of on the fly and everything. I wasn't super prepared. I just kind of knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know exactly how I wanted to do it. But I wanted to hurry up and get the Bill of Rights on video. So if anybody doesn't have access to one of these books, or you're not going to be able to get access, at least you can pull up my video and pull those amendments as you need to hear them, or, if you had the book, read them. But anyway, that is the Bill of Rights, and we should know these by heart. I know the Second Amendment by heart. I mean, it's on the wall right behind me, and I should know all of them by heart, and I'm going to study them until I do. Knowledge is power, and the more knowledge we have, the less power they have over us. So I'm going to give you all a homework assignment. Study the Bill of Rights, just as I'm going to. We got to fight back. And I'm using a soapbox right now. We're going to use the ballot box a year from November. And trust me, I don't foresee it going any better than the last election went, because they're still going to be using those Dominion voting machines. Because it worked, right? It worked for them. And when they find something that works for them, they gnaw on that thing like a dog on a bone until it doesn't work anymore. So we have to find a way to put a stop to it now. If we don't, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse until it explodes. I really, really don't want it to explode. That would cause, you're talking years of heartache and strife and bloodshed, and no. We just spent 20 years in Afghanistan. For what? But I'll tell you what, the mighty U.S. military has been beaten by a bunch of goat herders with rifles and RPGs. And they didn't beat them militarily. They beat them with grit and perseverance. This is the modern day Vietnam, only it went on twice as long. So start studying. Make that part of your preparedness plan. Study the Constitution. Study the Bill of Rights. Just do it. We've got to. If we want to keep our country, if we want it to not turn into some dystopian nightmare like it's headed for, then we got to do it. It's our duty to do it. Till next time, I'm Victoria Curum. Stay safe out there.